Welcome to The Drive on ESPN Blacksburg, AM 1430, 810, FM 94.1, and live on the web at espnblacksburg.com.
It's The Drive on ESPN Blacksburg, and a good Wednesday evening to all of you. My name is Paul Van Wagoner. That guy right there. B-Rye, taking your calls at 961-1430. 961-1430 is the number to call. J.W. Gravely hanging out with us today in studio, just kind of kicking it and jumping on board with us again, as he does every Wednesday at 5 o'clock, giving us the scoop, the skinny, the lowdown, the insight, if you will, to what's going on in the world of recruiting and committing. It's none other than Jason Stamm, who actually, by the way, got my vote for Dad of the Year recently.
Oh, wow.
Yep, based off of a video that his wife posted on Facebook.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations, man. How are you?
And that's a big honor, Paul. I mean, that's up there, man. Of all the stuff I've accomplished, that one's up there.
I would say probably not, but okay. Can you please explain what in the world you were doing to your poor child while you were crying at him while he was crying back at you?
Yeah, well, Paul, I'm a diehard Cincinnati fan. That includes the Reds and the Bengals, and anybody who's followed Cincinnati sports knows that's not an easy thing. I mean, we get almost there, but not quite there.
Right.
And again, I'm talking to a Lions fan. I know.
True.
So I know you've got at least some sympathy.
Yeah,
but,
man.
The Bengals. I always like to remind everybody that it's been some success the last few years. Of course, can't get out of the first round of the playoffs, but losing a team of the '90s, and it's just I'm teaching him early.
Okay.
It's not easy being a Bengals fan. So we were a little upset after the Bengals blew a 20-6 lead and lost and choked to Pittsburgh on Sunday.
Okay, I gotcha. JW's excited about that over. You're not a Pittsburgh fan, are you?
No.
Okay.
My best friend is, though.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Aren't you a Washington? You're a Redskins fan,
I sympathize. This is like the sympathy triangle.
Yeah. Brian's in there. He's got the Browns covered on his end.
Oh, well.
God.
Yeah. Between all of us, we should start.
The Browns now are what the Bengals were in the 90s. So
True.
I totally sympathize.
True. We should actually start some sort of support group. We probably would have more members than we know what to do with. All right, so I'm going to ask you. I gotta ask you a question. Like, are you drunk? Because here's the deal. Jason Stamm got. I don't know if it was Twitter or Facebook that you were on talking about how you felt like Western Kentucky was on their way to being a national powerhouse or something. Like you wanted to see. Like, come on, you're not really buying into the Hilltoppers being able to compete with the likes of like a Michigan or an Ohio State or even a Virginia Tech or
well, they could beat Michigan.
Come on, they'd beat UVA, but
they could beat Michigan.
You don't really believe that, right? Like you're just waving the alma mater flag, aren't you?
No, I mean, I don't think they're not up there with. They're not going to be playing for the college football playoff anytime soon, probably ever. I'm saying that if Western Michigan can be in a New Year's Six bowl, I don't understand why Western Kentucky can't be there. I mean, they were pretty much they lost one game last year. They were right there. They were in the end of the season ranked. This year, they get to double-digit wins again, and they're getting some convincing wins in the process. I mean, playing Alabama, I know they lost by 28, but that's better than a lot of the other big schools they played did. So I'm just saying I don't think they're that far off from being Western Michigan, what Houston was last year, being that team that can crash a New Year's Six bowl. As far as the group of five schools go, I think I'm a very big supporter of Mike Sanford. A very good friend of mine, and I think he's going to be, exactly what they need in that program. And they've done very well the last few years. Those coaches moving on to bigger and better jobs. We see Willie Taggart now at Oregon. Bobby Petrino 1 year, now he's up at Louisville. Jeff Brahms at Purdue. So I think Mike Sanford's the next in line. I know he's a great recruiter. They still got quite a few pieces back. They lose a lot, but they get quite a few pieces back next year. And I'm not saying it's going to happen next year, but you look at the type of schedule that Western Michigan played. Western Kentucky plays Vanderbilt and Illinois non-conference. So I think they could easily win those and win out Conference USA, and we could be talking about them in a New Year's Six Bowl next year.
Just so you know, I've made the prediction, and I will continue to make the prediction. Western Michigan gets beat like a drum by Wisconsin on New Year's Day. Well, on the 2nd. That's my prediction. And I think that is going to bring all these Bronco people back in Michigan that I'm dealing with on Facebook who are just completely off the rails. I think it's going to bring them crashing back down to reality.
I mean, it could easily happen. It could also – I don't know. I could see it either way, Paul. I mean, I don't know if anybody thought Houston was going to show up and play like they did against Florida State last year, and I think they surprised quite a few. So, I don't know. I mean, I haven't been following Western Michigan probably as closely as you've been – I don't force maybe
to.
It sounds like, but
Exactly.
I'm just saying. I think they'll have a fighting chance at least.
Okay, JW has a question for you in regards to Jordan Stout, the kicker that committed to Virginia Tech.
Hey,
Okay.
Jason, the question I have for you is, and a lot of people have asked me, and I said, I'm going on ESPN Blacksburg, and Jason's going to be on there. I'll have a chance to ask him. So I saw your all's tweet at the VT Zone. And it says, just a reminder, Justin Stout is a walk-on kicker commit for the Hokies. Still a good get. What does that particularly mean for Stout and his future at Virginia Tech? And for people that don't understand what a walk-on commit is.
Yeah, I mean, technically he didn't really commit because there's not really anything to commit to.
Mm-hmm.
He's basically accepted. Every team has so many walk-on spots that they can have. And, you've got obviously X number of scholarships. You've got 85, obviously, total, but you've got X number that you can use in a class. You only take a class of 25 is the maximum scholarship you can take in any given class. That's why, if you'll see teams sign more than that, it's either they're signing and placing guys in prep school or they know guys won't qualify and they go on to junior college, whatever the case may be. But in this case, kickers, punters, as essential as they are, rarely get full scholarship. Those guys they're just typically not the guys you give those to because those are ones you usually they have to earn a scholarship. Now, there's been some exceptions to that, even at Virginia Tech. Cody Jernell, I think, probably being the most recent who got a full scholarship out of Giles County. So it does happen, but just not that often. So Stout, they have given him, offered him a walk-on position. So basically it's just saying we've reserved a spot for you. You can come in and compete in fall camp next year, work toward the scholarship. And even if they do get a scholarship, it's usually a couple years into it. So, I don't know if Jordan, I know his grades are good. I don't know how good they are. I'm sure they'll help him hopefully get some academic scholarships and, be able to be at Virginia Tech if he can't be here on his own. So it basically gives him a spot to work towards a scholarship, but it's a walk-on position. There's not really anything. It's not a full scholarship. Like you commit to a full scholarship, commit to take that scholarship. So I guess if anything, he's committed to taking that spot. But Jordan, again, from what I've seen and heard from coaches and sources, within the Virginia Tech staff, I think he's a good kicker. And the same thing with Joey Sly. Joey Sly was a walk-on also. So, I think he's somebody who, a couple years down the road, obviously I think could make an impact, could be a guy who could get a scholarship. But going into it, he's going to have a preferred walk-on, so that means that he's kind of next in line, at least on that first group. He's not just somebody coming out and trying out. He's in that next group that at least will be considered towards a scholarship.
So, and of course, at Virginia Tech, with Joey Sly having one more year to play, this actually probably is a great time for Jordan to commit because can you do a red shirt as a preferred walk-on, Jason?
You can. It's you can take that red shirt season. Teams have also so many spots you can give red shirts to. But you've also got Michael Santa Maria, who I know has been biding his time as a kicker. So he'll be competing with Jordan Stout. And, I think Joey's got that locked up next year too.
Yeah.
But I think Santa Maria is probably going to be the next in line. But Jordan Stout, I know we'll get to compete with him. And if Jordan has a great camp, then he could easily pass Santa Maria. Not saying that couldn't happen, but as a kicker, I think it's a little tougher as a kicker unless you're just maybe you're 70 of 70 on field goals or something. It's really tough to get those scholarships right out of high school.
Okay. Who is the next recruit that I guess the Hokie fan base can be leaning toward to see commit to Virginia Tech?
It's probably the question I get asked about more than anything. Everybody wants to know who's next in line. I don't know. I mean, obviously, Devin Hunter's going to be announcing here at the Army All-American game here first week of January. I think the odds are still great with him. I think Paul and I don't, Paul. I mean, you could probably remember better than I have. Has there been a week where we haven't talked about Devin Hunter?
No, between Devin Hunter and Tywan Garbutt, they've kind of occupied most of our time.
There you go. So both of those guys, I think, are still very good odds. You got, I'm still waiting to, I think it's only a matter of time before Daz Newsome jumps on board. His brother is Dion Newsome, who's already at Virginia Tech. Daz is committed to Maryland, and I'll be honest, I thought he maybe would have already. Once he got that offer from Virginia Tech, committed then. So it's a little surprising to see that he's waited this long. I think he's wanting to kind of at least see if anybody else does come along. But unless it's somebody like, I don't know, a Florida State, a Clemson, somebody of that kind of at least perceived caliber, I don't see him going anywhere but Virginia Tech. It's just a matter of when and how he wants to do it. So I think you've got a few good options there that are, coming up. Nobody that's really set a date at this point as far as when they're going to announce. I think there's guys that the staff I know feels really good about. Marquise Bell being one of those guys. They feel like they've at least gained ground with Mekhi Becton, Victor DiMakiji, who visited on December 9th that weekend. So they've got a lot of guys I think they feel pretty good about. But as far as any definites, I'd say the odds are probably the strongest with Hunter, Garbutt, and Daz Newsome at this point.
And let's talk about Daz Newsome for a little bit, because a lot of fans, they see his highlights that he posts on Twitter and social media. But what is the one thing other than, his brother's already here? What's that one thing that Virginia Tech can say to him that gets him to decommit from Maryland and commit fully to Virginia Tech?
Well, you talked about any kid. They all want to play early or at least have the chance to play early. And I think somebody like Daz, he's a great athlete. And I remember watching him. I think Paul and I talked about this part too, but I remember watching him in person at the Virginia Beach satellite camp that Virginia Tech had back in June. They worked with him one-on-one to the side for, I'd say, 30, 45 minutes. And you don't typically do that unless you're going to make an offer. So, he's a kid I thought would probably get an offer months ago that's just now coming just because of numbers, I think, more than anything else. But, Daz has got speed to burn. He's a great track athlete. I think could probably, and if nothing else, make a difference on special teams. We've seen how guys like, Divine Diavolo, and some of these other guys have gotten a start on special teams. But, I think, obviously given where they are with wide receiver, he's got a chance to come in and play right away. And they're still not 100% sure if it would be as a defensive back or as a wide receiver. It kind of just depends, again, on how the numbers work out, how the class figures out for this coming class, 2017. So I think he's got a chance on either side of the ball to probably play right away. And I think that's important to him because he's talked so much about, wanting to play with Dion. And because of their age difference, every time that Daz would move up a level, even going back to Pee Wee football, Dion would move up a level too. So never really gotten to play together. And I think they would have that opportunity, obviously, at Virginia Tech. Nobody else is going to give him that opportunity to play with his brother.
Has anyone had a breakout season this year, probably more on the junior end of things than the senior end of things in high school, that have really jumped up the rankings, just maybe from a regional standpoint, that we haven't talked about, but maybe we need to start keeping our eyes on?
As far as guys that, Virginia Tech's concerned, I guess you could talk regionally. I know Hendon Hooker had a great season down at Dudley in Greensboro. It's only a couple hours away. I really feel like he has made a ton of progress this year. I know he's 3 stars now, but he's right on the cusp of being another 4-star kid. So obviously his season's done. He can't really improve his stock, but I think we liked what we saw from him. He seems to have really matured and shown a lot of poise back there under center. And the guy locally, I will say, that's really greatly improved his stock is Grayson Overstreet over at Stanton River. Grayson was, the WSLS Player of the Year and had a lot of accolades this year. Was state runner-up to, obviously, Blacksburg High School. But Grayson, I would say that everybody in this region right now, I think Grayson probably has the best chance of playing, whether it's a Virginia Tech, a UVA, a D1 level, FBS level place. I mean, Grayson's got good size. He's kind of like a bowling ball in there sometimes. I don't know if he's going to be a running back. I think it may be more on the defensive side as a linebacker, but he could, if he wants to play running back, I think he could, he has that kind of drive. I don't know if I want to say Sam Rogers drive, but just has that kind of drive where I think he could make an impact, wherever he wanted to be as a running back also.
You mentioned Hendon Hooker at 6'4", 198. I mean, height-wise, he's got it. If he was 6'4", 215, 220 and still doing what he was doing, would he automatically be a four-star kid?
Size, I think, it would help. I mean, he's going to have to add some weight. He is a little thin. 198 is not, gangly thin, but when you're 6'4", it makes you look like you're a little thinner. So he does need to put on some weight. I think he's got good arm strength. A lot of it was just his poise back there. I mean, there were times it seemed like he got a little, flustered maybe, and I think he showed that he's kind of taken command of being a quarterback a lot better this season. Obviously you don't get to see that so much in camp. So he looked good in a lot of camps and a lot of places we got to see him, including Nike and Rivals where I saw him back in the spring. But I think where he's really grown a lot is just the way he kind of commands an offense. I mean, he definitely has taken charge. It was his offense at Dudley High School. I don't think there was any question of that. And guys rally around a guy like that too. Sure. So I think the way he's just kind of matured and grown in that aspect has really served him well.
One last question before we let you get out of here so you can go change some diapers. Shy McKenzie, what are you hearing? What's the word? Have you had a chance to talk to him? Is he healthy? Is he injured? Obviously, through the wonderful world of Twitter, we're seeing conflicting stories. What, if anything, are you hearing?
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to personally talk to Shy for, I'd say, about a month and a half now. At that point, he seemed fine. I think he was a little down that he hadn't really had a big role in the offense like I think he hoped he would have. But yeah, it was a little strange. I mean, Justin Fuente didn't want to say too much about it this week, but just said that he was not healthy and didn't want to go into much detail. And then, I saw that Shy responded kind of in a roundabout way, kind of responded to, Coach Fuente, but responded to some of our other media colleagues that he was fine. So, I don't know what the extent is. That's something I know will be discussed quite a bit. And, at this point, I don't expect him to play or even be available probably to play in the Belk Bowl based on the way, Justin Fuente is talking. That's the guy who ultimately has the decision on whether Shy plays or not. And if Fuente says he's not good to play, then he's not playing. So it will be something to kind of keep an eye on. But, it does kind of raise an eyebrow that you have some conflicting stories from him and Fuente on just how healthy he is.
Jason Stamm is with the VT Zone and Scouts.com. I know we've only got about 4 days till Christmas, but I'm still looking for a present for B-Rye. Got any ideas for me?
I mean, aside from half-price apps at Applebee's, you've always got the VT Zone. I mean, give the gift of the VT Zone. You get a year subscription to Sports Illustrated included with it. You could give it to somebody else, keep Sports Illustrated, whatever you want to do, if you really want Sports Ill that bad. But makes a good gift, and, there's tons of deals, as we always talk about, Paul, that I think really pay for itself, whether it's discounted tickets, merchandise, you name it. You can get it through an annual subscription to VT Zone, and it'll pay for itself very quickly.
Jason Stamm is with the VT Zone and Scout.com. As always, man, thank you so much for doing this. No show next week. I'll see you, I'm sure, at the Belk Bowl. But you guys have a very Merry Christmas, all right?
Hey, you too, Paul. Thanks, buddy.
All right, take care. Have a good one, Jason. There you go. Jason Stamm, the VT Zone, Scout.com. Did that answer your question?
It did.
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah.
He was very knowledgeable.
In depth, yeah.
Jason he's a great guy in general, but very knowledgeable when it comes to not just college football, but Hokie football.
Yeah. Scares me how much stuff he knows, and you can throw it at him, and he doesn't miss a beat. He had no idea we were going any direction that we went, and he just kind of knows his stuff. He's that good.